Under the Scope.
Hey everybody, Jared and Shane here with The Scope, summer movie review of Ant-Man.
It's a bright, sunny day here.
It is a hot, sticky, summery day. We just got out of the film. It's the latest in the Marvel Universal universe of films.
We call that the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It stars people you would know. Of course, it's Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, a.k.a. Ant-Man. You've got Michael Douglas. You've got Evangeline Lilly.
Correct.
You've got...
Get you in the frame a little
You've
more.
got the bad guy. Who is that?
Corey Stoll.
Corey Stoll.
I know him from season 1 of House of Cards
All right.
on Netflix.
You've also got who else?
Star of the show, the man who steals it, Michael Pena.
Michael Pena. He's got a little thing over his end, so you know it's
so it's an Enye.
Enye. Jared, this...
T.I., rapper T.I. turned actor T.I. He's in it.
I didn't realize that was T.I.
That's T.I.
Good. You've got Bobby Cannavale or whatever.
Bobby Cannavale.
Cannavale.
Yeah.
You've known, of course, you know him from Will and Grace.
I know him from Boardwalk Empire as well.
He's been in a lot of stuff recently. He was in a comedy that we saw not too long ago, or that I saw with my family, called Annie, the remake of Annie.
Never saw that.
Yeah, he was sort of a D-bag in that one as well. I don't know why we're spending so much time on Bobby, because
he plays a good D-bag.
And Judy Greer as well.
Yes.
She's the summer movie mom, we like to call her. We saw her in Jurassic World, and she is now the mom in Ant-Man.
She's also a mom in the FX show Married, which just returned to the air.
Well, there we have it. So, Jared, this is an interesting situation for Marvel. It is introducing a new character, someone that the average moviegoer would not know. If you're a Marvel fan, of course you know that Ant-Man was one of the founding members of the Avengers. But not so in this particular case.
You're just like, you don't want to be in frame at all. It's amazing.
I want you to be the star of the show, Jared. So I felt like this film was sort of the Iron Man template in terms of how it tried to introduce a new character in the Marvel Universe, someone that we would not know about. So why don't you give a quick breakdown of the film in terms of what the plot is, and then we'll dig into the specifics in a second.
Okay, well, you've got, you start out with the prologue. You've got Hank Pym is a scientist, and he has discovered the Pym particle.
It's amazing that the particle that he discovered actually is named after himself. How convenient.
It's a strange coincidence, very strange.
Yes, it is.
This particle has the ability to basically shrink the space between atoms, thereby allowing objects and living things to shrink down to smaller sizes while maintaining the density and strength of their full size. So that's basically how Ant-Man gets his might, if you will.
Did you say
his astonishment?
Did you say that this took place in the past? This
opening scene is in the past, and we see Tony Stark's father. We see an Agent Carter. She's there. Haley Atwell's there.
You see a SHIELD group.
And the other dude who shows up in present day as well, and I totally forgot his name.
A generic bad guy, but we've seen him in other movies as well.
Have we?
I've seen him.
I don't
before,
remember him. Well, I've seen him. The character we haven't seen though.
No,
we've seen the actor.
I've seen before. Yes.
So basically, he's pissed off. He doesn't. Hank Pym doesn't want his technology used as a weapon. Yeah. Basically, is the takeaway there. Cut to present day. Scott Lang's getting out of prison. He's a smart dude. He's an electrical engineer who sort of found his way into trouble. He's a burglar. He doesn't like violence.
Burgles.
He doesn't like violence, but he will turn to thievery if he needs to.
He's a modern day Robin Hood, really.
Yes,
I mean, that's
pretty much.
the
That's how they
analogy that you
paint
would
him.
have
So he's just getting out of prison. He had spent some time in prison, and because of this life of crime that he's turned to, he's sort of estranged from his daughter. It's never really established if they were ever married. It doesn't really matter. He's sort of got to get his life back on track so that he can be in his daughter's life.
But it's hard out there when you're a pimp, right?
It's hard out there for a pimp. So eventually, he ends up turning back to a life of crime with his crime buddies, Michael Pena and T.I. and the other dude.
The Borat Light.
And they end up breaking into a place and stealing the Ant-Man suit.
Yes.
Little do we know that this may have been
a setup, Jared.
This might have been a setup.
A sting.
And so begins our story of how Hank Pym and Scott Lang get together, along with Hank's daughter, Hope Van Dyne.
Yeah.
Daughter of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne. Janet Van Dyne tragically not with us for a reason that is revealed.
The Marvel Universe Wasp character.
Yes, and meanwhile you've got Darren Cross, who has sort of taken over the Hank Pym's company and has found rediscovered his lost technology, Hank Pym's lost technology of shrinking things, and is working towards turning it into a weapons platform.
In typical evil Marvel bad guy, he is going to weaponize it and sell it to the highest bidder.
So as you can imagine, our plot is going to be, we've got to stop him from doing that. How we get there is the fun of the movie.
Yeah, it is, as you've heard, it is a heist movie.
Yes.
But, well, not completely a heist movie. There's definitely elements of that are the foundation and the framework of this film.
Indeed.
So there we go, Jared. You've done a terrific job explaining it. Let's dig into this film.
Yes.
So for me personally, as I said earlier, it definitely has all the patterns of the Iron Man film. You've got a charismatic lead character who is not quite as I wouldn't say morally ambiguous as Tony Stark was in the beginning of his arc.
True.
But he's definitely someone that you've got to establish as likable but yet flawed. You've got to introduce the technology and the heroics to the audience in a slow, sort of methodical way. And you've got to give them a task to do to make that happen. All the while being, all the while having this other outside nasty element who wants to use this technology for ill will. And it's really the same. It's really the same template in so many ways, except in this one you have a bit of what would be the word? You have the Hank Pym character who is almost like the original version, and he's leading you through the story as well. Yep.
And it's done in a very comedic way most of the time. It is really Marvel having to sort of start over a little bit. A lot of the characters they've introduced so far, while the means to their power is different, they've largely been based on strength.
Yes.
Captain America is strong, Thor is strong, Iron Man is strong, the Hulk is strong, and so you don't have to spend a whole lot of time sort of explaining their powers. It's because they're just they can beat up things. So Ant-Man's a little different.
It's a science-based power set, and he is strong to a certain degree, but it's more subtle and fluid in terms of what he can do, and the fact that not only can he shrink and get bigger, he also has power to communicate and control ants, which they don't really spend a lot of time on, other than it's just he can do that, but it feels organic within. It feels
organic to the story. I think if they had spent too much time on it, we would have gotten bogged down. You just sort of have to go with it.
Yes.
Honestly, and it's fun. I mean, the ants all have sort of specialized skills, so there's different ants for different purposes.
Yes.
And they show up when they're needed.
When they're needed, because ants are everywhere, Jared.
They are. They're right here on the dashboard.
So, I mean, let's talk about Paul Rudd for a second. Yes. I think that he is a terrific cast for this character. I mean, he has a certain comedic timing about him, which I think Marvel knew was essential, especially in the first third of the movie. They spend a lot of time building who Scott is and the world that he's going to be playing in, and it gets a little bit bogged down a little bit. But you know what? Iron Man 1 did that. Iron Man 2 did it. Iron Man 3 had issues like that, where you have to establish the story without it being a complete special effects super show. So you pin all of the weight on your main character. Yeah, and Paul Rudd is charismatic enough, he's funny enough, he's endearing enough that he can pull off all of those different attributes that you need Scott Lang to have. So. I think the movie was funnier than what our audience gave it credit for. Yeah. Our audience was pretty quiet. Jared and I often were the only people laughing. But I mean, it was very much a Paul Rudd show in that regard. So I was confused. I don't know how the general population is going to take this film, but I thought that the comedy was even heavier and more prevalent than you had in any of the Iron Man movies, any of the other Marvel movies, actually. Agreed. And I think a lot of people responded really well to Michael Peña's character, and I can't remember his name. Sorry, Michael Peña. Was it Luis? Yeah, it was Luis. You're Luis, right. Yes. So he was the one that sort of sets up the heist stuff, where to figure out what you have to do, it's him telling a story, and then as he's talking, you see the people that he's talking about using his words. Yeah, and it's done in a very stylistic way, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. And I was thinking about the script and how much of this was an Edgar Wright. Maybe that was part of what he was trying to do, and then it was taken over. You talk about the comedy part of it? Yes. I mean, just that sort of... well, and you look at all the people who they brought on to help punch up the script, too. Adam McKay. Yeah. Oh, we got a phone ringing. Incoming call. Peyton Reed, the director,
He's he's a comedy director. At least he did the We're the Millers.
Yep.
That was in theaters last summer. So you got a call.
We got a couple more people who saw the movie. They probably do not want to be on camera. Anyway, so you were saying, Jared, about the punching up of the script.
I just think that it's clear that they were going for more of a comedic element, obviously, in this film.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were times in this film, I will be perfectly honest, where it felt somewhat ordinary in terms of what they did, especially with the villain. The villain is a real ankle weight, but to be fair, the Yellow Jacket villain is no different than the main villain in Iron Man. No, very, very similar to Whiplash and the main Iron villain in Iron Man 2. He was very cartoony. That is my only beef with this film. That needs to be pointed out.
I think the comedy is very, very fun. Cake pops all around, folks.
Delicious.
The comedy is very fun. The heist portion of it is very fun. I agree completely. The portion of the film where things don't really work well, it's in the bad guy.
Yeah, you knew he was trouble. Sorry, we're backing out. You knew he was trouble from jump.
Yep. And
he was definitely froggy.
That Terry got a little froggy.
And
I don't blame Corey Stoll, because I've seen him do decent work in other stuff. I just think that this is a problem in Marvel movies in general. It's just you have a few breakout bad guys. You got your Loki, and maybe just your Loki.
Loki works, Jared, and I'll tell you why Loki works. Because he is a fantasy villain.
Yes.
He's not human. He comes from a world of techno knights and gods, and that sort of behavior is okay. And you have a terrific actor who can ham it up. When you bring those characteristics into real-life human beings, it does not work as well. It comes off as cartoony and shady.
I just feel like the characterization of Darren Cross was kind of all over the place. It's sort of... We've talked about this in other films. It's sort of changed to fit whatever was required for the scene.
Yeah.
And I never really felt like he was a three-dimensional person.
No. And they get into some of his craziness. Maybe it's the particles that are doing it. Maybe he's just a jerk.
It's never 100% clear.
Why would he just sell out to Hydra to sell this stuff? It just seems like a cardboard cutout villainry.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Marvel needs to work on in the future. Otherwise, it will not be something that you can kind of overlook. It will be something that will drag the film down.
Correct.
You also have a B plot dealing with Scott and his daughter and Judy Greer and Bobby, and then Bobby being the policeman who's sort of the civilian trying to track down the Scott Lang stuff, which I felt to be awkward, and it did not work.
I mean, I understand. I understand why it's there. It's there to motivate the Scott Lang character to do what he needs to do to become the hero we need in this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't always executed very well.
I think that you can get Scott's daughter in this film differently than having the daughter's father or dad-in-law or stepdad be the guy that's trying to track him down. He seems sort of inept.
He could have been there in one scene, and that's it. He didn't need to be more featured in the film. So.
And Cassie Scott's daughter is also a character in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
But it's all sort of convoluted and mixed up. And the other part of the film, Jared, that, sort of the MacGuffin device of like the heist itself, where they're trying to blow up the servers and steal the suit.
Yep.
Turn the air up, please.
Realistically,
Mom says
a company of that size is not going to have all of their data at one place in one suit, and if you destroy it all, then everything is going to be okay.
If you're watching our surprise hit TV show of the summer, Mr. Robot, you would know that's a problem that you're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and that's something that I was thinking about that as well. It's like Mr. Robot has the time and the intelligence to be able to sort of present this concept.
Yeah, we're dealing with a 2-hour film that needs to be tied up in a little bow by the end. So
I wish that they could have done better with that.
Yeah,
written better. But again, it comes down to the Shane scope issue of does the weakness of the film is it overcome by the strengths of the film?
I think it is, and
I think it is as well.
I think that most of the comedy lands pretty well. I think the action scenes are a lot of fun.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that, Jared. I think that the movie really shined when they started getting into the issue of scale, fighting in scale, which is something we've never seen in any of the Marvel movies before, or any superhero movie, really.
We saw sort of the test footage years ago that Edgar Wright had done, sort of demonstrating what his intentions were for an Ant-Man type film, with all the rapid shrinking and enlarging, and they did a lot of that in this film, and it really works well. It's really a lot of fun.
I think that some of the weirdness with the ants initially, like why is he controlling ants, is completely overcome by how they were used in the film and the bond between Ant-Man and his ants in general.
Yeah, he names one right away, and you actually sort of get attached to that one little ant named Anthony.
Which was funny, and I'm excited to see how Ant-Man plays with, and more specifically, how the powers of Ant-Man work with the other Avengers. It will give, I think it will give Civil War, which is coming up in less than a year, and then also the Infinity Wars follow-up to that. I think it will give it a lot of depth and a lot of interesting cinematography. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see.
Indeed.
So we've covered that. Anything else we want to cover before we give a score, Jared?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's ponder what the score for Ant-Man could be.
The Scope score is 3 stars.
So 3 stars for Paul Rudd's Ant-Man.
Unanimous.
We like it. I think that there's room to grow. It was not a perfect film, but I think any of the worries that the general public had that this was going to be the downfall of Marvel, or this was going to be the beginning of the end of them doing great films, or just the beginning of poor films, I think they're wrong.
Yeah, and it's a fun film. It has flaws, but it's a fun film. You're going to enjoy it. Should it have been released in July? Maybe not. I think it might underperform as far as a summer movie goes, but it's still good, and it still feels like it's part of the universe. I don't think the connective threads that they injected into this film were as obnoxious as they might have been in Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
it felt decently natural to the storyline, and. I don't think that anyone who's a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to come away being disappointed.
Terrific. So, Jared, tell our fans, our listeners, our watchers, how they can get in touch with us if they want to talk about this film or anything else scope-related.
If they can overcome the weird image stabilization wiggle that's going on with the video, they can like, comment, and subscribe right down below, right there.
Just that easy. So, for Jared and myself and my family in the back, thanks for watching this video. There'll be no more pictures after October 20th.
What? What does that mean?
Sorry. That was my Ringo Star. Anyway, we'll be back with more summer movies very, very soon. A lot on the pipeline. So for Jared and myself, bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. The days shall pass as if they were but a moment, and Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying arrivederci. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.